lecture yesterday, so didn't do it last minute this morning, so I don't really remember what's left in lecture. But anyway, so the comparison of the systemic, again, the whole body, versus just leg cardiovascular and hemodynamics, so like blood flow responses to incremental cycle exercise to exhaustion. So you can't see the x-axis here, but just assume this is, we're going in intensity from rest to max, to exhaustion. So cardiac output, which is this top bar, again, we've already seen this. So cardiac output is increasing linearly, and then we're hitting some kind of plateau. I might say. No. And leg blood flow is following a similar pattern. So we're linear, again, up to about 50%, and then we're starting to, the rate of increase is starting to plateau. And then, what do we have over here? Oh, vascular conductance. And that's the result of, here's our total, actually, let's look at leg vascular conductance first. So increasing nice and linearly up to about 50%. And then again, here's the sympathetic nervous system taking over. We've got that small, you remember we saw it before, maintenance or decrease in that vascular conductance sort of at the end here at exhaustion. And this is because the sympathetic nervous system is firing like crazy. And the result of that and all of the changes in blood flow across the other vascular beds is you get this increase in systemic vascular conductance, which really drops off noticeably at exhaustion because you're restricting blood flow to all your inactive muscles. Oh, I should have clicked that button already. So between rest and 50% of peak work, the rate of muscle blood flow, which is the outflow, is greater than the rate of cardiac output, inflow. And from rest to 50% work, the rate of increase in muscle vascular conductance is greater than the rate of total vascular conductance. But that doesn't continue on above 50% of peak work and as you near exhaustion, and they taper off because if they didn't taper off, you would compromise the regulation of blood pressure, because arterial outflow would be greater than arterial inflow, and my wonderful example of you just going boop, that's what's going to happen there. If you were increasing this linearly, you would compromise pressure. I know we've said this over and over again, but... And likewise, when we're talking about vascular conductance, here's your active muscle, here are all of your inactive muscle. Remember, inactive muscles include things like, I shouldn't say inactive muscle, inactive vascular beds. So these are the vascular beds of your active muscle, and then total vascular conductance. Actually, someone asked me that question after class. So this is literally all of the blood vessels in your whole entire body. So where do you have blood vessels? Everywhere. Including your heart, including your brain. It's probably fairly obvious that you need blood flow through those vascular beds. And if you were to keep on increasing your leg vascular conductance till kingdom come, you're compromising blood flow to those organs. If you haven't eaten anything and you don't care about visceral blood flow at that point, that's fine. And actually that is one of the regions that will vasoconstrict like crazy during exercise. But what if you start vasoconstricting to the brain, for instance? You don't. I think we have a figure to show you that. And to the heart, you need to keep on increasing the cardiac blood flow because we're increasing cardiac output. So we can decrease to certain regions, but we can only do that to a certain extent before we are compromising blood flow to non-exercising tissues that really need blood flow in order for you to stay alive. Which should be your ultimate goal, more so than gains. Am I using it right? I'm so embarrassed. Oh, that's good. It makes me so happy. Okay, so, all right, so now let's lead into the question. How is it possible that the rate of increase in muscle blood flow and muscle vascular conductance, so these green fellows, are greater than the rate of increase in cardiac output and total vascular conductance, respectively? And, I mean, I asked that question, but I've been explaining it all through that slide, that the answer is that we're redistributing cardiac output. Because cardiac output is not the only driver, the only driver of blood flow into this exercising leg. It is, but we're not keeping all of the other vascular beds constant. If we were keeping every single vascular bed constant in terms of blood flow and only increasing leg blood flow in your exercising limb, for instance, then they would increase linearly. And not vice versa. Likewise with this one. But like I just said, what we get is a redistribution of blood flow. I really love this figure. I can't remember if I put a similar one in your past lecture, but I was about to. So this is showing as you increase in intensity, again along the x-axis here, from a nice mild exercise to peak exhaustion, 100% VO2 max, that the distribution, so you only, like all of the blood is obviously coming from the heart, right? So it's only coming from cardiac output. So this is sort of your max. So where is it going? So here's our heart that I've been talking about, this white one. You can see that this increases, and that makes sense, right? Because the heart's doing a lot of work. Remember, the heart's a muscle. It needs to be doing all of its ETC, yada, 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 Krebs stuff all the time, all the time, because it's doing a lot of work. It's working real hard, especially at high exercise. Remember, our heart rates are like really, really high. So this makes sense. We need to increase blood flow to the heart. It's an exercising muscle. And we can never compromise blood flow to the heart, because that would be a heart attack. Viscera, so our internal organs, digestive organs, etc., kidney, that kind of stuff. You can see that that blood flow is decreasing over time. I think we talked about this last year. We talked about swimming, getting a tummy ache, so the body will compromise digestion. Which actually, this is sad, but we were talking about this over drinks last night. Oh no, that's really embarrassing. But, and why swimming, people tell you not to swim. I was like, really, you would think with that sort of like a guideline that the insinuation is that your muscles would stop like working, you know, that you would drown. But really at the end of the day, all you're probably gonna do is like puke if you can, or like get a tummy ache. So I tell you, you can swim after you eat. Probably don't, like it's just gonna be uncomfortable, but the body will compromise visceral blood flow at really high exercise intensities. Other tissues, such a bummer. I hate when they say other and they include the brain. But anyway, so assume that the brain's staying constant. This is probably a big part of this like black bar here, because you can see the other tissues are not changing. But the whole point of this graph is the muscle where we're really, almost all of the increases in cardiac output that we're getting are going to the muscle. So we're redistributing blood flow to the skeletal muscle, away from the viscera, and we're redistributing it, importantly, to the active muscle and away from inactive muscle. Okay, so at rest, 15 to 20% of cardiac output goes to skeletal muscle, and that increases to 80 to 85% of cardiac output during maximal exercise. So we're increasing cardiac output like crazy, and almost all of that, just like I just said, is going to the active muscle. Working skeletal muscle is the key there. Decreased blood flow to less active organs, so liver, kidneys, GI. The redistribution depends on exercise intensity, which you can see. You know, you can see the viscera, they're still getting quite a bit of blood flow here, up at 67%, much less up at exhaustion. And this is because as you're moving from rest to 100% VO2 max, so exhaustion here, you've got net vasodilation inside your muscles. So this is muscle blood flow as a percentage of rest. So here's rest, and as you're increasing from 0 to 100% max, you're vasodilating all of these muscles because they're doing work, local metabolites, etc. And then splanchnic, so your gut blood flow. Again, percent of rest, so we start up at close to 100% of its, well, we would start up at 100% at rest. You start exercising, and the splanchnic region's getting less and less blood flow, so you're getting a net vasoconstriction. We've said it lots and lots of times here. Really fast. So in accordance with the conservation of mass model, remember, learn your models. Dennis is going to be talking about the models too when he comes in with his respiratory stuff, so know your models. Otherwise he'll blame me for not talking about the models enough, so know your models. In accordance with the conservation of mass model, redistribution of blood away from the less active organs increases arterial blood volume, and thus mean arterial pressure. And then in accordance with the mass and heat flow model, increase in blood pressure will increase that high energy pressure for skeletal muscle blood flow. Allow your skeletal muscles to get more blood flow and do their thing. That's all. Done. Anyone have any questions? Okay, we move on to a new unit on Tuesday, but it's still me. You lucky ducks. I'll see you then.